There's more to civics than just memorizing the branches of government. It's learning how power works and how rights are protected, how decisions get made, and what responsibilities come with living in a republic. I'm Matt Haskman, a high school history, government, and civics teacher at a small rural public school in South Central Illinois, and this is a 6th episode of civics questions that are worth asking. I'm kind of asking the question and then kind of answering it too. And today's question is one of the most important and also misunderstood ideas in American government. It deals with federalism. And the question is, why does federalism matter? Well, federalism is the division of power between national government and state government. And that sounds simple enough. But federalism shapes almost every major debate in American civic life. So, who decides education policy? Who runs elections? Who controls criminal law? Then who regulates marriage or property or public health or transportation, schools, businesses, policing, local government? When should the national government step in? When should states make their own decisions? When should local communities have more control? And those are all questions that are connected back to federalism. And in the American system, power is not located in just one place. With my kids in class, I tell them federalism is a lot like an onion. And then, of course, onions are like ogres, and then ogres are like cakes, and cakes are like parfaits, because federalism is about layers, right? And so federalism is like Shrek. Anyway, it's a connection for the kids. But the national government has important powers, and it can regulate things like interstate commerce or coin money or declare war. It can conduct foreign policy, how we play in the sandbox with other countries. It can maintain an armed defensive force. It can protect our constitutional rights. But states have important powers too. They run elections. They create local government. They regulate the schools. They maintain the roads. They enforce criminal law. They license professions. They handle many of the issues that actually affect our daily lives. The local governments, which are created by the states, make decisions about schools and zoning and police protection, fire protection, public works, local taxes, community service. So, when people talk about the government, we need to ask some follow-up questions about it, especially if you see it in like comment sections and stuff like that on social media. Which government? Is it the federal government? Is it the state government? Is it the county, township, the city, the municipality, the school board, the library board? So federalism matters because it divides power vertically. Separation of powers divides them among the legislative, the executive, and the judicial powers. I've already talked about this one. But federalism divides power between the levels of government, those layers. Ogres, onions, cakes, parfaits. Both ideas are meant to prevent too much power from being concentrated in one place. And that's the reason why federalism matters, because it can protect liberty by making it harder for one government to control everything. But federalism also matters because the United States is large and diverse and ridiculously complicated. But what works in a major city may not work in the same way in a small rural community. I've talked about this with the counties that are passing advisory referendum about separating from Illinois. But what matters most in Illinois may look different from what matters in Texas or Vermont or California or Minnesota. So what federalism allows states and local communities to do is to respond to different needs and values and conditions and problems. It allows some policies to be handled closer to the people affected by them. But it also allows states to try different approaches. And in my class, we talk about, the states are sometimes referred to as laboratories of democracy because states can test policies before the whole country adopts them or rejects them. I often say, pay attention to California and New York because whatever they do there, there's a good chance that Illinois is going to follow. But federalism is not always neat or easy. It has always been used to define injustice, and states' rights arguments were used to do things like protect slavery and segregation and resistance to civil rights, when they talked about states' rights in those regards. That history is real important. But federalism can also protect local control, but it also can allow local majorities to violate the rights of minorities. We're talking majority of opinion versus minority opinion. And this is why the national government sometimes have to act. So after the Civil War, the 14th Amendment changed the relationship between the federal government, the states, and individual rights. And it made clear that states could not deny due process or equal protection of the laws based on what states wanted to do. That this was something that was guaranteed from the federal government all the way down. And that means federalism is not just about state power, it's also about constitutional limits on state power. It's one of the central tensions that exist in American government. We want decisions made close to the people, but we also need national protections when rights are threatened. We want states to have room to govern themselves, but we also need the Constitution to mean something in every state. It just can't be, we'll treat it as an option. We want local communities to have a voice, but we also need to ask what happens when local decisions violate individual liberty or equal protection. So federalism matters because it forces us to think carefully about where power should be located. Not every issue needs a national solution. Not every issue should be left entirely to the states. Not every local decision is automatically good just because it's local. And not every federal action is automatically bad just because it comes from Washington, D.C. So the real civic question is not simply whether we want more federal power or more state power. The real question is which level of government is best suited to handle a particular issue while respecting rights and accountability and the Constitution. And that's really at the core of why federalism matters, because it shapes how Americans argue about schools, elections, roads, taxes, public health, civil rights, criminal justice, environmental policy, and just about everything else the government does. Federalism reminds us that power in America is divided not only across branches, but also across levels. And in a republic, that division of power matters because it can protect liberty, it can allow local self-government, it can encourage different solutions, those laboratories of democracy. But it also requires that citizens pay attention, because if we do not understand which level of government is responsible for what, we won't know where to direct our questions or our criticism, our votes, or our participation. So why does federalism matter? Because power is not supposed to be gathered into one place. Because local communities matter, because states matter, because national rights matter, and because self-government depends on knowing where decisions are made and who's responsible for making them. And, well, this was another civics question worth asking. Thanks for watching. If you hung around for the summation, the caption for the video, why does federalism matter? Too long, didn't watch. Federalism divides power between national, state, and local governments. It can protect and allow local self-government, and it lets states try different approaches. But it also it raises difficult questions about rights, equality, and when national action is necessary. I hope the Shrek comparison didn't throw you off too much, because when you're in a classroom, you sometimes just got to find things for kids to grasp onto. And I fear that with my last 4 years of teaching coming up, I'm eventually going to find kids that have never seen Shrek, and so they're not going to get the reference. But anywho, thanks for hanging around today and watching this longer video.